Recording in progress.
You're actually not overreacting. You are remembering. Today, I'll show you how your inner child shapes your emotional world. The first point that I want to make is that the present day triggers or reactions you experience are actually very, very old or young, depending on how you're looking at it, wounds or patterns that are surfacing in the present. The way that we work as humans is we are wired to survive. And being wired for survival means we are especially likely to remember negative or disturbing experiences. And they get, when they're not processed, stored in our amygdala, the fear center of our brain, so that anything that remotely reminds us of it, even on, and especially not even on a conscious level, will trigger that fight, flight, or freeze response. And we learned those patterns in early childhood. We cannot ever really unlearn those patterns, but what we can do is continue to deepen our self-awareness by trying to help look at ourselves through a greater lens of compassion toward our experience. And sometimes integrating the inner child can help us have a bit more compassion when we're seeing that the reactions that seem out of proportion to the situation at hand might be an innocent, younger version of ourselves screaming in crisis because they are needing something from you now. And so the triggers that happen day to day are always opportunities for the reparenting work, right? Because they are these micro moments of unmet needs you received or did not receive as a child. So each time you're getting triggered and experiencing triggers as a parent or as you're preparing to become a parent, what you're actually needing in those moments is to meet yourself fully. The problem being, though, that our defense mechanisms that we learned from what was modeled around us for the most part, and for what worked in the moment, will tend to switch on. However, if you have set the conscious intention to try to become more conscious of these patterns, the first step is always going to be recognizing that these come up. So many people might scoff at the term inner child, and actually, it while it might sound silly or childish, it's not necessarily imaginary because of the way the brain and implicit memory and our nervous system works, right? We are wired to survive. That means that we learn. That's why we have memory, and that's how memory works, especially when we remember things that are critical that happened to us that affected our survival, and therefore we learned how to adapt and what patterns to develop in order to survive. And so when we think about the inner child, they're actually memories of a younger version of you coming up. So you can say inner child, right? But it's actually referring to an amalgamation of accumulated memories in your brain that often get activated in similar present day situations. And each time that those present day situations are triggering your reactions, remember to actually be grateful because that reaction is giving you an opportunity to become more conscious and intentional and to practice meeting the younger parts of you that are essentially being triggered because they are asking to be felt, acknowledged, and heard. And then you're going to learn something new while also practicing emotion regulation skills. And when you can meet those needs within yourself, that's how you continue to build greater emotional security, greater inner security. And if you can know how to meet some of those tantrums that go on within yourself, well, then, my goodness, you're going to have such a depth of understanding of yourself and those younger parts of you, meaning that you're going to actually be that much more emotionally attuned and empathetic and understanding of what could be going on with a child when they are in crisis mode and maybe in going into a tantrum. So remember that your reactions don't make you broken, they make you human. For a guided inner child encounter, feel free to join my reparenting course linked below, or even start by checking out the Reparenting Starter Guide or the Inner Child Soothing Script.